The topic for today is degrees of adjectives, positive and comparative degree. We also have positive, comparative, and superlative degree, but today we'll look at the comparative degrees. Okay. So, guys, please join. I have sent the invite to all our pro learners. Just click on the link. Okay. Let's just wait for a few minutes, allow everyone to join, and then start. Okay. So, before discussing the superlative, or rather the positive and comparative degrees, let's just quickly recap. What is an adjective? What does an adjective do? Simple question. Anyone can answer.
Describe about the noun.
Adjective is a word describe or qualified the noun and pronoun. That is called adjective.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Still adding our learners. Anyone else wants to add something? Add anything? Yes, that describes qualities or state of being. State of being is also very important.
Adjective.
Yes. Go ahead. Someone was saying something. Yes, Tarup, go ahead.
Adjective describe and pronouns and nouns.
Very good. Thank you. So, words that describe the qualities or states of nouns, basically, yes, pronoun also here. And so we also talk about quantity and quality both. Okay, so adjectives not only are about the quality, it's also about the quantity, like the numbers, like or countable, uncountable nouns, many, few. Okay, so we all know about adjectives. A describing word is how it is described. Okay, it's called a describing word. So when we talk about the positive adjectives here, we're talking about the neutral degree. Okay, and then comparative and superlative is when you compare two things, two people, qualities of two people, you look at the comparative degree. When you talk about one thing or one person's superiority over anything and everything around, then we call that a superlative degree. Okay, so that's the distinction. One is neutral, that is positive. Then there is comparative. You need two or more things to compare. And then there is a superlative. So that's how it is. Let's start with the topic. Let's start the topic. Okay. Tarup, go ahead, read the first slide.
Yes, sir. An adjective is a word that modifies, gives more information about a noun or pronoun. Example: tall man, old house, red car.
Absolutely. That's why we call it a describing word, because it describes what? Either a noun or a pronoun, okay? Or a phrase. Go ahead, read. Please continue.
Degrees of adjective. An adjective can exist in three forms: positive, comparative, and superlative. The positive form is the base form of the adjective. It denotes the mere existence of a quality.
Yeah.
The comparative form expresses a higher degree of some quality. The superlative form expresses the highest degree.
Very good. So there are two things here. So in the sentence, the comparative form expresses the higher degree of quality. What is the adjective in that sentence? Tarup, what is the adjective in that sentence?
In which, sir?
Second sentence. When the explanation one is, it says that the positive form is the base form of the adjective. It denotes the mere existence of a quality. Just the fact that you are good, okay? Or just the fact that someone is tall. That's it. There is no comparison. There is no superlatives. In the second sentence, the comparative form expresses a higher degree of some quality, which is the word that is a adjective in this.
Taller.
Higher is the word I was looking for. Okay, so what the example that I was giving is high, higher, highest. These are the three forms. So in this case, high will be the base form, which is the positive form. Okay, and higher is the comparative form as indicated in the second sentence, and the third sentence, highest. So high, higher, highest. Okay, that's what I meant. So three forms. Yes. Okay. Yes, when the superlative form, the reason, when do you choose a comparative and when do you choose a superlative is when you're comparing two people, two things, is when you choose a comparative. However, if the comparison is, let's say, in a group of 10, one person is being compared with the remaining 9, then the form that you can use is the superlative, because you're trying to state that either good or bad, positive, negative, whatever it is, that one quality in that person stands out compared to everyone else, compared to the quality of everyone else, or whatever quality of the thing that you are referring to. So it depends on what is the context. Okay. All right, let's continue. Dipali, go ahead, read the next slide.
Irregular adjectives. A small number of adjectives are irregular in the way they make comparative and superlative forms. The normal way to make comparative and superlative adjective is to add er or est or use more, most, like this: big, bigger, biggest; expensive, more expensive, most expensive. Irregular adjectives use completely different forms. Note, however, that some adjectives can be both regular and irregular, sometimes with a slight change in meaning.
Yeah, that's fine. So here in the second example here, expensive, you don't say expensiver or expensivest, right? No, that's not the right word. So expensive and more expensive. The way you look at, in terms of syllables, we'll look at that later, and I'll come back to this and explain what is the irregular adjectives, why is it called like that. Okay. At the moment, let's continue. Aryan, go ahead, read the next slide.
Regular adjectives. Regular adjectives are simple. They describe noun and usually come right before those nouns. Example: big bus, tiny mouse, a pleasing person.
Good. Okay. So regular adjectives, they describe nouns and usually come right before those nouns because they're describing. So big bus, I'm traveling in a big bus. I saw a tiny mouse. He is a pleasing person. What kind of person he is? He's a pleasing person. Okay. Thank you. Aryan, just read the words given here.
Sad, sadder, saddest. Happy, happier, happiest. Unusual, more usual, most usual. Good, better, best.
Absolutely. So good, better, best, we don't have words like, gooder or goodest is not the right word. So we have better and best. Similarly, bad is worse and worst. Okay. All right. Let's continue. Meera, go ahead, read the next slide.
Yes, sir. The comparative form is used to compare two people or things. Look at these examples. Neptune is big. It is bigger.
Neptune.
Neptune is big. It is bigger than Earth. This puzzle is easy. It is easier than the last one. The film was not interesting. The book was more interesting than the film. In the above example, bigger, easier, and more interesting are comparative adjectives.
Comparative.
Comparative adjectives.
Just give me a minute. Just give me a minute. Okay, yes. So here, obviously, the words given here, bigger, easier, more interesting. These are the comparative degrees in this case. Okay. Okay. Now, when you look at certain adjectives here in terms of comparative, okay, let's look at this one. Okay. How many syllables are in the adjective big? Guys, how many syllables?
3.
3
One,
syllables.
sir.
Big. It's a
One,
big.
one,
You are saying big, right?
one, sir.
Guys, one person at a time. Yeah. Yes. Yes, I was talking about big, the word big. Yes, one. You're right. Absolutely. Right.
BIG,
One.
big.
Correct. One syllable. Absolutely. So big, tall, sad. Okay. One syllable word. Okay. You just simply add ER. Okay. Guys, please be on mute. There's some sound in the background. Yeah, thank you. So when you add ER to one syllable adjectives, okay, remember, one syllable adjectives, you add ER, you get what? The comparative. And you add EST, okay? You add EST. That's
Superlative.
superlative. What I'm talking about is EST if the adjective has a consonant plus a single vowel plus the consonant spelling. Okay, so the final consonant needs to be doubled. When I say doubled, tall becomes what? Tallest. Okay, but in that, the word in the adjective tall, the last letter, okay, is already 2 syllables, right? Double, basically, the consonant. Okay, so in that case, you don't need to. You simply add EST. However, if it is a word like sad, big, fat, okay, what do? You double the final consonant, like fat, or let's say big, for example, the word that we're discussing. What is the last letter, last consonant?
G.
G, absolutely. G, right? So when you double it, it becomes bigger and biggest. So simply double the consonant, the last consonant, that is, if the adjective has a consonant and a single vowel and a consonant spelling. Okay. So these are the one syllable adjectives that I was referring to. Now let's look at some 2 syllable. Okay, let me ask you all. Let's say, how many syllables in the adjective simple? How many syllables in the word simple?
The 2.
How to? Yeah, you're right. Answer is right. How to?
Yes.
Tell me the 2 syllables.
The simple.
Yeah, absolutely. That's correct. Simple. What about happy?
2.
2. Yes, don't hesitate. Be confident. Yes, simple, happy. Okay. So that's correct. 2 syllable words. Now, in the 2 syllable adjectives, okay, what do you do in that case? Happy becomes what as the comparative? What is the comparative form of happy, guys?
What is the meaning of
Happier.
syllable?
Sir, happier.
Syllable is a unit of sound. So, like for example, when you say 2 syllables, it's happy, where there's a break, happy, 2 syllables. When you talk about 1 syllable words like big, tall, there is no break. It's just one sound, one unit of sound. That's why it's called 1 syllable. So in happy, there are 2 breaks, basically 2 syllables. Happy, okay, simple. So what is the comparative form of happy?
Happier, happiest.
Happiest.
Exactly, happy, happier. Simple.
Simple, simplest.
What is the comparative?
Simpler.
Simpler, absolutely. Simpler and simplest. Very
Simplest.
good. Yes, busy. Busy.
Busier. Busy.
Correct. Busy, busier, busiest. Absolutely. Okay. So when you talk about the 2 syllables, okay, you can't form the comparative by adding ER or by, preceding with the adjective with more, the double consonant. That doesn't work like that. These adjectives, you can form the superlatives either by adding EST or the word most. So in this case, we were looking at the words that end with, so happy is a word that ends with what? A vowel or a consonant?
Consonants.
Okay. What do you add? IER to make it what? Happier. Okay.
Hap-
Similarly, Now the word busy also, you add what? You remove y, okay, the one that ends in y, and you simply add I, okay? So IER. So busy, happy, okay? Now, when you look at words like simple, simple ends with what? A vowel or a consonant?
Vowels.
Vowel.
Vowel, absolutely. In that case, what do? Simple, simpler, ER. So simple is the word, existing word, right? You simply add R and you add EST. Okay, so simple, simpler, simplest. Now, what about the word tangled? How many syllables in the word tangled? Tangled is spelled TANGLED. How many syllables?
Two.
Short?
Tangled. Right. Two.
Okay. Tangled, are you sure? 2 syllables?
No, sir.
Then
Tangled.
tangle is the word which has 2 syllables, right? So yes, tangled, similarly
Three.
2 in this case, okay? Tangled, yeah. The ED comes together, so tangled, okay? So in this case, words like these were more than 2 syllables here in this particular case, tangled, okay? Tangled, 2 syllables. Tangle is a word which has 2 syllables, like title, for example. How many syllables in the word title?
Two.
Two syllables are there.
Exactly. But these words, if I were to give you the word, if I were to give you the word, just a minute, titled and tangled, okay, I'm not giving you the base form of the verb. I'm already adding D to that, okay? So you can consider that to, kind of become a 3-syllable word because I'm adding D, although the sound is the same sound. So in this case, when you have more than 2 syllables, okay, when the words are obviously title and tangle, but the words that I gave you all were titled and tangled. In this case, I've added ed already, D at the end of the word, basically. So in this case, you cannot add er and est. What do? You use more and most in this case. Yeah, more and most, absolutely. Okay, so in this case, like more tangled, I don't say, like, for example, if let's say my bag, okay, my bag was tangled, basically means my bag got tangled, or my bag was tangled on the hook, or something like that. So here in this case, you can say tangled words like, more than 2 syllables. The other words that I'll give, like expensive. How many syllables in the adjective expensive?
Sir,
Three.
Three syllables.
Short?
Three, sir.
Right.
3 syllables. You're all right. 3 syllables.
3
Information. How many syllables in the word information?
Sir, 3.
Short?
Yes,
Four.
sir.
4.
Four.
4. Always remember, whenever the word ends in ION, TION, the sound that comes is shin. Shin is 1 syllable. So information, 4 syllables. Okay. So words that are, multi-syllable words, more than 2 syllables, here you simply need to add more and most to make it a comparative or a superlative. Simple, right? So this is one of the other ways you can simply remember what is in terms of the syllable. 1 syllable adjective, add ER, EST. Okay. Double the final consonant. 2-syllable words, if it ends with a consonant like Y, specifically Y, you remove the Y, you add IER and IEST, becomes your comparative superlative. Happy, happier, happiest. Busy, busier, busiest. If the word ends with a 2-syllable word, adjective ends with a vowel, like simple, for example, you simply add R and EST. So simple, simpler, simplest. Okay. All right. Good. Let's continue. Who just read right now? Mira, you read, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Taru, please continue with the next slide.
Yes, sir. We use comparative adjective to describe people and things. The house is certainly better, but it's much more expensive. Here, although it hasn't been maintained, but it is clear that this house is being compared to a set of other houses. I am feeling happier now. I am feeling happier than how I was feeling before. We need a bigger garden. We need a bigger garden than our current garden.
Very good. So you see, the thing here is, rather than saying we need a bigger garden than our current garden, it is not needed. The reason you make a comparison is why? Because you either want something more, or you are indicating that something is more or less in comparison to another thing. Now, if in this sentence, the other thing, what is the noun here in this case, garden, is already mentioned. So if I say we need a bigger garden, do I need to say we need a bigger garden than our current garden or our current one? Is it needed?
No,
It's not
sir.
needed. Not needed. Yes, because you're talking to that particular person. You know what you're talking about and to whom you are referring this to or having a conversation with. In this case, you don't need to repeat. Even if you say we need a bigger garden than our current one, it's fine. But you don't repeat. At least you don't repeat the word garden again. We need a bigger garden than our current garden. Not needed, because the noun is already mentioned. You are already talking about, and the fact that you make such a comparison indicates that you're talking about needing a bigger one than the one that you compared to the one that you already have. Similarly, when I say I'm feeling happier now, see the difference between what is the difference between the two statements? I am feeling happy, I am feeling happier, and I am feeling happiest. What is the difference between these three sentences? What is the difference when I say I am happy, I'm feeling happy? Second sentence, I am feeling happier. And third sentence, I am feeling happiest. What is the difference between the three sentences?
The first one, sir, is a normal statement. The second one is comparison between current situation or before situation.
Very good. Yes.
And the third one is a comparison between among lots of people.
Now, when I say I am the happiest, I am happy, feeling happiest means that you're comparing that moment with every other moment you've lived in your life, basically, every past incident. So feeling happier now would be compared to what just happened, maybe recently or whenever, we don't know, but it's like a recent kind of a comparison where you're talking about coming from a particular situation where you were not happy, now you are happier. Okay. So when I say the other meaning is also, the other meaning can also be, let's say, for example, you give a kid a chocolate because he likes chocolates. The kid feels happy about it. Okay. He's happy to get a chocolate. But he's happier when you give him a specific chocolate, which, he likes more. Like, say, for example, you like ice cream, but someone's favorite is a vanilla. And if I were to give him an ice cream, he would like it. But if I were to give him a vanilla ice cream, which he likes, then he would feel happier. So what I mean by that is you're comparing two situations or state of mind, recent. You can be happy and then you can become happier and then you can become happier. So what I mean is, one, you are absolutely right when you said that one is a normal statement where you're simply stating the person's state of being. He's happy, feeling happy. Happier indicates that happier than what he or she was feeling in the past. And happiest means that compared to everything else, this is the best moment. So that's what I meant. Superlative, comparative, and then the base form. This house is certainly better. So good, better, and best. Okay. This house is certainly better, but it's much more expensive. Okay. Here again, two things. How many adjectives in this sentence? This house is certainly better, but it's much more expensive. How many adjectives in this sentence?
Two, sir.
Two. Which ones?
Much and more.
I said adjectives.
Expensive.
Exactly.
Sir.
I'm asking about adjectives, Tarup. You are giving me the quantifier. I am talking about the adjective. So better and expensive are the two adjectives in this sentence. Okay. Better,
Okay.
showing a degree or showing a quality of something that is better, superior to other. So this house is certainly better than the one that we have, but it's much more expensive as well. So there are two comparisons made here. One is the house being better than what the person is referring to, and being more expensive as well. So two adjectives. Okay. All right. Let's continue. Abhay, go ahead. Read the next slide.
Yes, sir. Second, to compare two different things. We use than when we want to compare one thing with another. Example first, Nina is 2 years older than her sister. Second example, New York is much bigger than Dallas. Remember, although we use comparative adjectives when talking about two things, not three or more things. In fact, one or both of these things may be a group of things. For example, Mount Everest is higher than all other mountains. All other mountains is a group here.
Very
Thank
good.
you, sir.
You're welcome. So here are two things. One, the comparison, when you compare two different things. See, comparison is generally you do it, between things that are similar, but here you can obviously use comparison for two different things as well. We use than when we want to compare one thing with another. So Nina is 2 years older than her sister, because here you're talking about two completely different people. New York is much bigger than Dallas. Okay. So obviously, even if you remove much, you would just say New York is bigger than Dallas. Much bigger is just used to emphasize the fact that it's quite big in terms of the size or whatever. Okay, so here in this case, you are using obviously much as an adverb in this case. Okay, so that the first part is pretty self-explanatory. The second part, it says, although we use comparative adjectives when talking about two things, not three or more things, in fact, one or both of these things may be in a group of things. So the sentence given here is, you can either say Mount Everest is the highest mountain, or you can say Mount Everest is higher than all other mountains. So all other mountains is a group here. So you obviously cannot compare Mount Everest with an ocean, right? Your comparison will be with the mountains. So Mount Everest is higher than all other mountains. Okay. Let me ask you all a couple of questions here in terms of comparative. Give me a minute. I'll ask you all individually. Okay. Let's see if you can get it. Okay. Okay. Let me ask. Okay, Deepika, can you hear me? Deepika, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, first go ahead. First answer the next one, and then I'll ask you a question. Go ahead, read page 9.
In India, May is than June. Hotter.
Read the sentence.
In India, is hotter than June.
So what are you comparing here? You're comparing the
Month.
You're not comparing the months.
Month, sir.
Comparing the temperature of the months
Temperature of
during that particular month. Okay,
during
so
hotter. Yes.
yeah, so the comparison here is between not just it's not about the months, it's about it's the temperature that is being compared here.
Yes.
So May is hotter than June. Okay, go ahead, read the next one.
And Anna is
And
than her husband. Good
looking नहीं हो सकता है.
good more looking, sir.
Comparison है, पूरा sentence पढ़िए आप.
Anna is better looking than her husband.
Yes, good looking will be simply a positive form, a base form. Okay, good, better, best. These are the three forms of comparison. Is better, best is the superlative. So Anne is better looking than her husband means that she's more presentable. She looks better than her husband. That's the meaning of the sentence. Okay, Deepika, I will give you one sentence. You need to make it into make it into one sentence. I'll give you two sentences. You need to make it into one sentence. Okay. The two sentences are Ram is 10 years old and Ram is 10 years old. One sentence. Sham is 8 years old. Now, if you want to make this into one sentence using the adjective old, how will you make the sentence? One sentence. इन दो sentences को एक sentence में convert कीजिए. पहला sentence है Ram is 10 years old, Sham is 8 years old. Start with Ram. Ram is
the first sentence is, sir?
Ram is 10 years old, Sham is 8 years old. Now make it into one sentence. Ram is
10 years old.
मैंने दो सेंटेंसेस दिए आपको. मैंने क्या कहा आपको कि एक सेंटेंस में उसको कन्वर्ट कीजिए, उसका मीनिंग समझिए पहले. The moment I say Ram is 10 years old and Sham is 8 years old means what? What do you understand from this sentence?
सर दोनों अलग हैं, 8 years और 10 years old हैं दोनों.
तो मैं क्या कंपेयर कर रहा हूँ?
Comparative.
क्या कंपेयर कर रहा हूं मैं? दोनों के बीच में क्या कंपैरिजन चल रहा है? जैसे यहां पर टेम्परेचर कंपेयर कर रहे थे इस सेंटेंस में, उस सेंटेंस में क्या कंपेयर कर रहे थे? एज, राइट? यस, एज, एब्सोल्युटली. सो हु इज ओल्डर?
Ram
Ram is older, right?
Ram
So
is older.
exactly. So if I want to make it into one sentence, what will my sentence be?
Ram is older than
Sham.
Sham, sir.
Exactly. Very good. Yes, that's how you make it into one sentence. So whenever there are sentences, that the reason I gave the example is because there are two different sentences, but the comparison is between the two people in terms of their age. So what is being compared? The age. So if I were to make the sentence into one and without changing the meaning of the sentence, where in the first two sentences I'm indicating that the guy is 2 years older than the other one. So Ram is older than Sham. That's how you make it into a comparison. If Ram was being compared to everyone else, is the oldest or the eldest in the family, so that's fine. Okay, that's how you make a comparison. Let's continue with Shivani. Go ahead, read the next slide.
Yeah. This building is taller than, yeah. Third option, building is taller than any other building.
Read the sentence again. I didn't hear you clearly.
Hello.
Yeah.
Okay. This building is taller than any other building.
Good. Yeah, absolutely. Taller than any other building. Go ahead, read the next one.
In the desert is okay. Life in the desert is scary. I don't know. I choose wrong one. But what's the word? Dreyer. Life in the desert is what is written there in option? Third option.
Okay, you're asking about the word dreary. Dreary is the word.
No. Dreary. What is meaning?
Dreary basically means
Dry?
dull, dry, banal. Yes, that's correct. Bland, basically uninteresting. So here the word is dreary. So I, obviously you remove I and add IER. So life in the desert is drearier than life in the mountains. That's the sentence. Okay.
Drearier. Life in the desert is drearier than life in the mountains.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Dreary basically means dull, dry, or colorless, lifeless, basically something that is boring. Okay, something that is tiring. Okay, let me give you a sentence. You need to make it into one sentence. Okay, the sentence is the Alps are. Okay, let me give you another sentence. Just a minute. Give me a minute. Okay, the first sentence is the Alps, 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 the Alp mountain region. The Alps are very high. And the second sentence is there is no higher mountains in Europe. The first sentence, I repeat, the Alps are very high. Second sentence, there is no higher mountains in Europe. Start the sentence with the Alps are and complete the sentence, making into one sentence.
Just wait.
I will type the sentence on the chat.
I have to make. Okay, fine.
I've typed it on the chat. You should be able to see it. You need to start with the Alps are and then complete the sentence.
So you need in one sentence, in both two sentences, you need in a one sentence,
yes,
right?
That's what I need.
Okay, so I can't see where you are
on the chat. I'll read the sentence again for you. The sentence is the Alps are very high. Full stop. Second sentence, there is no higher mountain in Europe. Now complete the sentence, make it into one by starting with the Alps are complete.
Just wait. Europe. Okay, the Alps are very high. There's no higher mountain in Europe.
What is the adjective?
In a first sentence.
Both the sentence. I'm talking Very is an adverb there in that case. It's not a adjective. What is the adjective, Shivani? High,
High.
exactly. Very is not the adjective. So high. So now, if I am already stating that the Alps are very high, and there is no other mountain in Europe higher than the Alps, means what? The Alps are, use the superlative.
So superlative form of high.
Yeah, high. Yes,
Highest?
exactly. So complete the sentence. The Alps are
Highest. The Alps are very
How can it
highest.
be very
You
highest?
can say.
Where is the confusion? I'm not understanding your confusion. We've discussed what is the adjective.
Because I'm not understanding. Yeah, exactly. But I'm not understanding meaning of sentences. What I have to do.
I gave you two
So
sentences. You
that's
need to
why
make it into one sentence, and you know that the adjective used is high. So when I say the Alps are very high, and the second sentence is there is no higher mountain in Europe, essentially what am I saying is the Alps are the
highest.
Yeah, exactly. That's correct. The Alps are the highest mountain in Europe. That's correct. Mountains in Europe. Absolutely. That is correct. The Alps are the highest mountains in Europe. That is correct. So what we have done is basically the reason to give the exercises so that you understand the meaning of the sentence, right? When there is in the first sentence, Ram Sham example, there was a comparison between two people. Here, the comparison is between the Alps, and the second sentence, I'm already declaring that there is no other mountain in Europe which is, as high as the Alps. That logically means what? That the Alps are the highest mountains in Europe. That's what it means, right? The Alps are the highest mountain in Europe. That's what I mean. So when there is a comparison, you make it into a comparative degree sentence. When there is a comparison between two things, you make it into comparative. When there is a comparison between one and everything else in that category, you make it a superlative. Simple. Okay.
Okay, but I was taught here both are individual
Yes,
sentence.
they are.
And
yes, they are. You're right. The exercise is to make it into one sentence without changing the meaning of the sentence. Yeah, that's the exercise. So like the first example where it was a comparison, Ram is older than Sham. This one was a comparison between the Alps in Europe and all other mountains in Europe. So what essentially became is that the Alps are the highest mountain in Europe. Basically, why? Because we are comparing Alps with every other mountain in Europe. Okay, like Mount Everest is the highest mountain. Means what? I'm comparing Mount Everest with what? With all the mountains in the world. Simple. Okay, that's all. Yeah.
okay, sir.
Okay, let's continue. Bipul, can you hear me? Bipul, you're on mute. I'm unable to hear you. Okay, I'll come back to you. Maybe some technical issue. Okay, Aryan, can you hear me? Read the next slide.
When we want to describe how something or someone we can use two comparatives and with and example the ulcer got bigger and bigger. Second, everything is getting more and more expensive. Third, Aunt Mary is looking older and older.
Something, somehow here, basically, when you use the two adjectives together, it just indicates the fact that there is a change. So like, for example, the ulcer was already quite big, but it's becoming bigger and bigger. Basically means that it's growing, spreading. Everything is getting more and more expensive. It was expensive, but it's getting more and more. So basically, the sentences like these indicate that there is a constant change. It's not a gradual change. It's a constant change. It's a change that is like dynamic. It keeps happening because more and more expensive. Last month, the prices were something 10 rupees, then became 12, then became 15. So it's not like 5 years, it stayed 10 and then it increased. Just giving you an example. So you use this when you can, in such a situation, such sentences, you can use comparative degree. Okay, now if I were to give you a sentence about, let's say something like a mountains. Okay, we don't say that the mountains are becoming higher and higher. That's not how it works, because the mountains, they doesn't become higher, it melts, so it can become lower and lower. You can say that the water level is decreasing. Such examples where there's a constant change in terms of nature, you can use this kind of an example where you use the two comparatives with and. That's the simple explanation. Okay. All right, let's continue. Dipali, can you hear me? The other Dipali who just joined. Dipali, can you hear me? No, okay. Who's yet to? Okay. All right.
Hello.
Yes, Dipali, go ahead. I can hear you now. Go ahead. Read the next slide.
हो ना एक मिनिट हा एक मिनिट we often use the with comparative and adjective to show that one thing depends on another. When you work hard, it is more rewarding. The harder you work, the more rewarding it is. When they combined higher,
Climb. Read it.
climb higher, it got colder.
Colder.
Colder. When they climb higher, it go colder. The higher they climb, the colder it got.
Yeah, correct. Thank you. What is the meaning of the second sentence? The harder you work, the more rewarding it is. What is the meaning of the sentence? The harder you work, the more rewarding it is. What is the meaning of the sentence, guys?
जितना ज्यादा तुम हार्ड वर्क करोगे वो उतना ज्यादा अच्छा उसका रिवॉर्ड होगा.
Absolutely, that is correct. So the more the more you reap, something like that. So the more you reap, something like that. So basically, the more effort you put in, the more rewarding it will be, more fulfilling it will be. You will get rewarded, whatever it can be, monetary reward, whatever reward the speaker is referring to. So we often use the with comparative adjectives to show that one thing depends on the other. In this sentence, when you work hard, it is more rewarding. The reward depends on your hard work. It's not the other way around. Your hard work doesn't depend on the reward. The reward depends on the hard work. When they climbed higher, it got colder. So the higher they climbed, the colder it got. The two sentences mean the same. You are free to choose whatever way you want to express. You can either say when they climbed higher, the colder it got. The higher we climbed, or the higher they climbed, the colder it got. The two sentences, these are rephrasing the sentences. Basically, the meaning is given, yes, but you can also use the sentences given in the bracket. Those are also grammatically correct. Apart from explaining the meaning, it's also another way of rephrasing the same sentence. Okay. All right. Shivani, go ahead, read the next slide.
Okay. When we compare two objects, persons, qualities, degrees, etc., we may use the comparison of equality.
Equality. Yes.
This found by the use of as plus adjective, adverb plus as. Your house is as large as mine.
Your house is as large as mine. Here in this case, when you're comparing two objects, persons, qualities, degree, etc., we may use the comparison of equality. Equality what? Samanta, right? So here in this case, when I say as large as, that's why you don't say larger. So the moment I say large, larger, largest, larger and largest become the comparative and superlative. But here in this case, although there is a comparison, that is on the same level. That's why we use as. Okay, so as good as mine. Like for example, your car is as good as mine. Your house is as big as mine. Your effort is as commendable as his, for example. So here you are comparing. Yes, there is a comparison. However, one person's house is not bigger than the other. It's similar. So that's why is as large as mine means मेरा घर जितना बड़ा है उतना ही बड़ा घर आपका घर है. So my car is as good as yours, meaning my car is good. It's good quality. Your car is also as good as mine. Basically, it's the same thing. So yes, there is a comparison, but it does not indicate that one thing is more or less than the other. It's similar. That's why we call that a comparison of what? Comparison of equality. Equal rank के बीच में comparison है. That's why comparison of equality. Okay. All right. Yeah, this is exactly what we discussed a while ago. So let me ask Meera, go ahead, read this slide. Just read adjective type.
Okay, sir. Adjective type, short adjective, one syllable, adjective ending in one vowel plus one consonant
No,
Two
not
sla-
don't read it like that. Read it short, adjective, one syllable, old, long, older, longer.
Okay, sir. ये भी पढ़ना है. Okay, sir.
It's an example given, right? You have to read that.
Okay. Two syllable adjectives ending in dash y.
In Y,
Ugly.
you don't have to read the dash, just Y.
Okay, sir. Y. Ugly, noisy, messy.
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 Messy, yes.
Longer adjective with two or more syllables. Careful, expensive, beautiful. With some two syllable adjective, both er and est ending and more most are possible. Polite, common. With some two syllable adjectives, only an er and est ending is possible. Narrow, simple, clever.
No, comparative form पढ़ा ही नहीं. Old, older, long, longer, big, bigger, hot, hotter. So that's what it means. Short adjective, one syllable, exactly what we discussed earlier. Simply add er, you get the comparative degree. One syllable word, long and old. I add er, I get older, longer. Adjectives ending in one vowel plus one consonant. Big, I double the consonant. Okay, big becomes bigger, hot becomes hotter. So what I've done is doubled the consonant. Double the consonant meaning G twice, T twice. So double the consonant. Big, bigger, hot, hotter. In the word tall, the word itself is a two, it's the two letters are both the double consonants anyway. So that's why I don't need to add another L. I just say tall, taller, tallest. Two syllable adjectives ending in Y. Ugly becomes uglier, noisy becomes noisier, messy becomes messier. Okay. Careful, expensive, beautiful, more careful, more expensive, beautiful. Polite, common, more polite, politer, more common, commoner. Commoner, yes, both the meanings are different. We'll discuss that later. Narrow, narrower, simple, simpler, clever, cleverer, or cleverest is the superlative. Okay, now the word polite, okay. The word polite, the reason it's given here as more polite and politer, both can be used in this case with some two syllable adjectives ending, er and est endings, and more and most are possible. So let's say, for example, polite, common, commoner. Yes. One more word. Yeah, I can't think of any other words right now, but yeah, some two syllable adjectives, both er and est endings is possible. So politest, politer, politest, common, commoner, commonest. That is fine. You can also say more polite, more common, most common. Okay. So these are the adjectives where you can use both the forms. That is acceptable. Let me see if I have some more words where you can do that. Give me a minute. Okay. Just give me a minute. See if I have some words like that. I can't think of any words that I've made a note of. But anyway, yes, there are some words where you can do that, both with the, but just remember that those words are the words that have multiple syllables, basically two syllables. Okay, they cannot be one syllable. Okay, so two syllable adjectives. Okay. Okay, like for example, let's say future able. Okay, yeah, this is a good example actually. Okay, let me ask you this question. Let's say if my sentence is, he is more able than me. Is that correct? Or he is abler than me? Which sentence is correct? Guys, The sentence is he
Sir,
is.
more able.
Sorry.
More able.
Sir, more able.
You sure?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anyone else thinks the other way around?
The second sentence more.
The sentence I said, the two sentences I gave are, he is more able than me. Saksham means other able, basically. He's more able than me, or he's abler than me. Which is correct?
More able.
Yeah, that's fine. Whatever you think is fine. Anyone else? Anyone else? He is more able than me, or he is abler than me.
More able than me.
That's the more commonly accepted one. However, the two forms of the word able are abler and ablest. So these are the words where, like polite, common, able. Okay, these are the adjectives that I was referring to, where the more common way of using them is using more and most rather than using their comparative and superlative degrees. Okay, let me see if I have some more words here. That's one word that I just came across. Let's say, okay, let's say, let me give you all another example here. When we talk about absolute range, okay, absolute sense, like for example, let me give you this example. Let's say this track, okay, this track is two sentences. Tell me which is correct. This track is more parallel to that one, or this track is, let's say, this track is parallel and that and the other is not. Which is the correct sentence? The two sentences, I repeat, this track is more parallel to that one, or the second sentence, which is this track is parallel and the other one is not. Which is a grammatically correct sentence according to you? First or second one?
The first one, sir.
Okay, that's fine. Anyone else thinks otherwise?
First one, sir.
Okay. Anyone else? Just because I didn't agree with the first one, don't say second one. Okay.
First one is correct.
The second one is correct, guys. The second sentence is correct. The track is more parallel. You don't use that sentence. Why? Because more and most should not be used with adjectives that give absolute sense. What is the meaning of the word parallel?
Sir, equal. Barabar.
Okay. You sure? One more
Meaning,
meaning.
sir, parallel means
You're right. Equal. Yes. Aligned. It's not equal, but it's
yes,
close to aligned.
aligned,
Equal.
yes, sir.
Equal is, yes, one of the synonyms of the word parallel is equal. Yes, that is correct. However, what in my sentence, what am I talking about? But the equal that you are talking about, equal, the parallel as equal, that is used as a noun. Okay. The example that I gave you all is what? Using parallel as, like parallel lines never meet. What is the meaning? I'm using parallel as what? An adjective in my sentence. The example that you gave with equal as the synonym is used when you use the word parallel as a noun, not as an adjective. So when I made this particular sentence, this track, matlab samajh lo railway track ki main baat kar raha hu. This track is more parallel to that one. You cannot use that sentence. It's incorrect. Why? Because parallel ka matlab kya hota hai as an adjective? What is the meaning of the word parallel? What is the meaning, guys, of the word parallel? Means side by side or having the same distance between them. Okay. So when I use this sentence, when this track is parallel and the other one is not, that is the reason it is correct is because parallel is a word that gives absolute clarity and absolute sense. So there cannot be a comparison. You can compare the track being parallel and the other one is not. That is the correct way of making the comparison, rather than saying this track is more parallel. Matlab nahi banega na. There's no sense to it saying more parallel. Why more parallel? Because the word parallel itself is an adjective which is of absolute sense. Like for example, there are words that absolute adjectives like dead, for example. Okay, you would say he's dead or he's alive. You don't say he's deader or he's more dead than alive. You don't say that, right? Or for example, acceptable. This is acceptable, that is unacceptable, right? Can you say this is more acceptable than the other one? That makes sense?
No, sir.
No, why not?
Because this is not right way to say.
The reason is because you are already stating that ye jo hai, this is acceptable compared to the other one. Then you don't need more and most. You don't need, right? So the moment you say acceptable, the moment you say something like, let's say, the city was destroyed. Do you say the city was more destroyed? This city was more destroyed than the other city? Is it needed? No. Similarly, free again is an absolute adjective. Impossible. Something cannot be more impossible than the other. Okay, it's simply impossible. So this task is either impossible or possible. It cannot be this task is more impossible. Not needed. Why? Because the moment you say impossible, it's understood that you are talking about an absolute sense. So in these kind of adjectives, with these kind of adjectives, avoid using more and most. Okay, simply use with comparison. Like for example, this task is impossible. That the other task is not. This task is impossible compared to the other one. Then I understand that the meaning is कि ये जो task है ये impossible है in comparison to the other task. But you don't say this task is more impossible than the other task. Okay, just an example. All right, let's quickly complete the exercise. We've discussed many examples here. Abhay, go ahead, read the first one, the exercise.
Which 70 slide is there?
17. Yes, 17 is here.
Yeah.